and they have a lot of information about this very important topic, which are immigration scams. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Ana Cristina, and I work for Envision Freedom Fund, and I'm going to be facilitating today, and and then I'll introduce you to the panelists. I'm going to start with Rommel. Hey everyone, so glad to be here. Thank you for being here with us today. I am Rommel Ojeda, and I cover Latin immigrants in the documented site, and we are a news program that covers immigration issues. So it's so excited to be here, and thank you, Rommel. And now I'm going to pass it to Ben.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ben. I'm here with Envision Freedom Fund. Thank you so much for being here. You'll be hearing more from me in a few minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. Yes, excited to be giving you all this very important information for everyone and many things we've seen so we can educate the community as to what is happening. Excited to be here with y'all. Thank you, Rosa. Now, Ashley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley. I'm one of the interns, a law student working at Envision Freedom Fund. Very excited to be here with everyone. Wait.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patience. Along with Ashley, I am a law student also working with Envision Freedom Fund. Also very excited to be here.
These are panelists for today, and we're going to start with Roman, and he's going to give us information about common scams that we're seeing. Another announcement, uh, the chat is not working right now, so if any question, please use the Q&A box. And I pass it to Roman. Thank you, ACF. Maybe all of you already know that scams have been around for many decades. But this is a very important moment to talk about scams because we are in a time where executive orders have have a lot of immigrants in a state of panic and uncertainty. And so given that combination of fear and panic, uh, immigrant people are are more vulnerable to scams. Why? Because mainly because they want to stay here in the country, and if somebody shows up and tells them they're offering a guarantee for them to stay here, the person might consider taking those services, and that's why we're here with Envision Fund, and we want to share what I found in my work as a journalist and what I found to be able to go up to not fall for scams. What are scams? Scams are tactics used to deceive people to obtain money, personal information, or access to data, maybe your contact from your family, data from your bank, etc. And many times, as I mentioned, they take advantage of trust, urgency, or fear. And urgency, I want everybody to keep that in mind because this is something we're going to really stress during this presentation. So, as I said, this can affect anyone, not just people that might not be able to differentiate between what is real and what isn't. In a moment of panic, many people will just act fast and might be able to fall for one of these scams. And one of one of the things that impacts them or affects them is the language barrier. As you know, all the USC, SCIC forms are in English, and for people that are not very fluent in the language, they might need help. And help is also cost money. And so evil people come and promises uh, services for very low amounts of money in cash, and people fall for those scams. The other one is the lack of knowledge of legal issues. As you know, the immigration legal immigration issue is very complex. There's many pathways for citizenship, many ways to get work permit or asylum, and that confuses me. I'm a journalist, and I do this for a living. But imagine for people that are don't do this every day. So lack of legal knowledge also puts you at risk to fall for scams. The other one, the fear of authorities or deportation. And this is something we're seeing more now, giving the disinformation that we see in TikTok, President Trump's executive orders that have focused or directives that have focused on creating this environment of massive deportation. So many times immigrants want to follow the laws and do everything as mandated so they don't break more laws. And what happens then is that when they are faced with some scam, when those scams come to them, they're like, hey, if you don't, I'm going to fine you if you don't respond in 72 hours. And given the perception of what is real and what is not real, many people fall for those scams as well. That's because of fear. Other common things are that scammers often pretend to be professionals or government officials, and those scams have become very complex. Um, Sometimes people need to be very skilled, have a really good eye to really figure out or spot things that are false in an email or a phone call. This can happen over the phone, social media, postal mail, or email. We've seen cases of phone calls of people leaving messages with a number to call back to confirm identity, and some people think that that they want to just verify what the phone call is about, and they call back, and that's where they get all that information from them. Next slide, please. So the first scam is the 10-year visa. This scam, well, first of all, the 10-year visa does not exist. The visa for being a good human being doesn't exist either, and I've heard about that a lot. And this scam is based on a fake asylum application, and it's sent to USCIS, and to have that application denied and start a deportation process. So lawyers that start with this that do this scam start a process called the stay of deportation or cancellation of deportation, and they do it against people that have been here in the U.S. for over 10 years, have no criminal record, and have a spouse or relative that is a U.S. citizen. And it's really difficult to fix this scam, and I'm not sure about the statistics. We can show them in the next slide, but the risk is that if you get a bad result from this scam, you can be deported. That's guaranteed. Second, this is a fraud, lying lying to the government by saying you want to request asylum when you really don't have an asylum case can be more cost you more in the future, even though people think, even though people think that having a social security number and work permit for 4 or 5 years is worth it, but in the end, at the end of the day, if you want to stay in the country, this is not a good option for you, and it's going to cost you more money now in the future. This is another slide that this is a story we covered at Documented with my colleague. This was a story about the 10-year visa. We focus on this immigration law firm in Manhattan, and two lawyers started fake asylum cases for many Spanish-speaking immigrants, sorry. And the lawyers never told these people that it was an asylum case. Many people that did not want to start asylum cases because they knew they didn't have a credible fear to stay in this country. The attorneys lied to them, saying this was a visa because they had been in the country for over 10 years. So they were charging these people over $8,500, and most of these people, or all of them, it went through deportation, ended up going through deportation processes in this law firm. And I'm not gonna say the name. I mean, the link is there, but it's not good to repeat the name of a firm that doesn't offer good services. But this firm, only 2 out of 1,039 cases of asylum were approved over a decade. So only 2 out of 1,000. So what this means is that most of these cases that were not approved were sent to deportation proceedings. Like I said, it's very complex to handle, and they effectively result in guaranteed deportation. And that's why at the moment there's going to be a lot of people that want to stay in the country, and some lawyers or attorneys are going to want to sell this kind of process to these people, telling them it's a 10-year visa. And in reality, it's not a 10-year visa. It's a deportation, or they want to fight in court. And if they win it, people can get a green card. But if they lose, the people can be deported immediately. Next slide, please. Something else that we are seeing, especially in the African countries that are communities that have arrived recently in the last couple of years, is that we have false immigration lawyers, and you can see this in TikTok, where a lot of people use the names of real attorneys, and they pretend to be them, and they charge people money through private messages, and they're like, if you want information or a consultation, send me a DM, and that's when they charge the money. Also, fake immigration attorneys can also be considered like the notaries. The notaries are the ones who verify the identity of a person in legal documents here, but they're not authorized to give legal advice or provide legal representation in immigration matters. So usually these fake attorneys promise easy, quick solutions, work permits in 6 months, guaranteed green card, but at the end of the day, they just want your money. They just want the immigrants' money. Something advisable is when somebody runs into or is with a notary that wants to sell those services to you. The first thing is, do not sign any agreement or any kind of document, and always ask for a copy of all the documents you're going over, and then ask for their name. And if they say they're an attorney, ask them the name of the law firm, so that you can verify it with you can verify the law firm's names, and also the nonprofits that are accredited by the Department of Justice. And the next slide, we have some examples.
And similarly to the fake immigrant lawyers, many of them also pretend to be scammers, members of the agencies post as ICE or official agencies, USCIS, HSI, CBP. And these are scammers that take advantage of people that may already have a case with immigration, or they happen to share about their case on social media with friends, with family members, or even over the phone. And what happens is that they may send information through Skype, WhatsApp, or those type of platforms, and they may say, hey, listen, I have your case. I've been assigned to represent your case, and I am an official. Let's say my name is Romela Ojeda in your state, and I am here to represent you because you only have 72 hours to fight your case against deportation. Now, if this person has an immigration case, this person may not have the understanding that the person reaching out to them are scammers. And now the scammer may ask them for money and get into very complex case. Or like I mentioned, they will share an urgent message like you have 48 hours. If you don't pay, we will deport you. And sometimes they may mention the possibility of them being arrested, and we have a warrant for your arrest for tomorrow. So they may not have an understanding of how the legal system works or how to verify if it's fact. I would be afraid if I find myself in a situation like that. And so this is how it works. And they lean on the fear that already exists within the community due to everything that is already happening. Next slide, please. And so these are some scammers that pretend to be lawyers. They may say, I want to help you with your case. I want to help expedite your case. They may present a set rate, which is way lower than typical lawyers would charge. And as you may know, for an application for work permit, it's over $500. And then in addition to, for someone to take your case is about 1,000. So if someone comes up to you and says, hey, I'll charge you $300 and it includes everything. So that seems to be a very tempting offer. But everything that is inexpensive ends up being expensive. And so these are some of the type of messages that some of the clients have received, where we see here that someone is guaranteeing that 100% that things will be okay, and they're charging $300, and they use applications that there's no way to track, like Zelle, PayPal, or they may ask for a wire transfer. Next slide. This is an example of a scam and a real message from USCIS. We see that emails never share details on the client's case. Usually they'll say, we have taken an action on your case. We will invite you to go to our official website and check out the notices. But what scammers do is that they include information. As you see on the right side, it says that it's an approval of biometric services and that they will be charging $723 to authorize to process and validate the interview. And they also gave a deadline. This is a very important detail. At the end of the day, as I previously shared, they first will ask for a fee, and then they will share a some urgency. And they'll say, if you don't reply by X date, your case will be considered abandoned. And possibly it will screw up their case with the agency. Now, if someone looks it up on Google, their case, it may be possible that they see that, yes, an abandoned case may result in deportation. So what these scammers do is they take information that may be out there and use it against the client. Now, if someone is waiting for immigration case update, they're following up with notices, keeping an eye on notices, so they may reply quickly when they get a notice like this. Next slide. This is more information on government agencies and agents. What these fake entities will use the logos on their profiles, fake logos. But what they want to do is to make it look like it's official, right? You have the letterheads, the CIS or ICE logos from other states. Sometimes they even have the names of the agents and the ICE secretary office. But what we can see and the difference between a scammer and a real one is the way they request payments. They may ask that they're from the secretary office of ICE, the Department of ICE, but they'll ask for payment through Bank of America. So there's something to keep an eye out for this. And we're going to go over some strategies in a bit on how to identify these type of scams. Another thing is that these messages are sent through WhatsApp, electronic, and they may Facebook, and they may look very official. My colleague Ben later on during the presentation will share examples. And so they try to also modify the links so they look like the official links. They request payments through unauthorized methods, Zelle, Venmo, direct deposit, Cash App. And we know that USCIS never requests payment through these platforms. It's usually through the official portal, but there's a official way to pay through it. Or via check made to THS. We'll go over examples later on. It's always a good idea to go to the official My USCIS accounts before considering any type of mail or message that you may get. It's always important to go to your profile through the official website to make your changes of a change of address and you enter your information and your email through that portal. Next slide. These are other examples. As you see, it will always have the logo, which are the official ones, and they have the similar language that the notices may have, which include the case number. Sometimes I'm not sure why they may even list the category, which tends to happen at immigration courts during sessions. But USCIS, if it has this, it could be questionable. What is interesting about this is that it includes all of the real information. And these are the offices of CBP. But it has a telephone number that begins with 877, which is a marketing number. And so they will give this notice to people and the person will call to confirm. And when the person calls is when the person is providing more information, and that's where the scammers are able to gather more information. So that way they get to, with that information, they are able to pressure the client to follow their requests. And you also see here another scam of the enrollment approval, and includes a lot of information. And at the bottom part, the web page, we see uscis.org. It is not .gov. So these small details tell everything. That way you automatically know that this is not the official website and it's a scam. And it's not something you will find. So we are going to talk more about how the scammers require your participation to gather more information on the next slide. I always like including this because people may not see the links between chain messaging scams and other scams. Some people may say that these chain messaging don't really impact you in any way, or it's not that bad. But if we see how they work, we can see the connection of how this chain messaging is connected to scams. Usually chain messaging is received by many people, and it always includes a prompt. It'll say something like, send this to 10 people of your friends, so you get $1,000 or something like that. And the people in need may share it with their friends, and that is how the messages are shared times 10 each time. And so this is shared WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, text. And, as I mentioned, they may seem harmless, but they collect your personal data, name, age, location. They're able to access your contacts when forwarded. And this opens the door for phishing and scams. So when someone gives you the information, if we can move to the other slide, I'll share a bit of how this works. So let's say someone arrives to this slide, this chain messaging. They'll say, hey, we have a Christmas bonus. We would like you to enter your information. And when someone enters their information, whether it's their telephone number, their name, usually these messages tend to ask if you're immigrant, how many years have you been in this country? And these details open up the door for phishing and scamming, because what scammers do is they collect all of this information and they sell it to other organizations that solely focus on immigration scams. So let's say I enter my information to get this 1,000 bonus. It is possible that after 2 to 3 months, someone will reach out to me and say, hey, are you Romel? Have you been you've been in New York for more than 10 years and you're not a legal permanent resident? We want to help you out with your immigration case. So that is the connection that we always need to keep in mind when we send and enter this information on these chain mails. We are opening the door for more scams that in the future can cost us a lot of money. And there's some that are more direct. We had a study during COVID. As you may know, immigrant people did not have access to unemployment benefits. And so there were many scammers saying that they want to give $1,000 just for being immigrants and Latino or Hispanic. And I'm Hispanic and I have never seen this type of money just for the fact of being immigrant and Hispanic. But with these type of scams, they were asking you for your credit card number. So that is a way for them to get that information and steal your identity. that will end up costing you a lot because it could end up harming your credit score. And then you need to pay for your credit card debt. So we need to keep this in mind. Everything that is free ends up being expensive. And so if someone wants to sell something, they will see you as the product. We want to sell you something, right? Next slide.
And this is something we're seeing more recently for the last 2 years. And there's some scammers that also pretend to be immigration judges. And this is very complicated, very complex because they use platforms like Skype or video calls to connect with people over a period of 2 or 3 months. They usually use U.S. flags, the logos of the government agencies, like something behind their back on the wall behind them, and sometimes they're wearing a suit that says CBP or a cap with the USCIC logo, and they look official, and people think they're real. So one thing we need to do is to verify their names and the offices and not sharing any information before confirming the identity of these people and and find a complaint if they seem suspicious. And a lot of people are falling for those scams. And according to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, in 4 years, over 1,000 people file complaints related to immigration issues. And I would like to present Rosa so she can talk a little more about how these scammers are pretending to be immigration judges and how one of her clients was a victim of this scam, unfortunately. So, Rosa. Thank you, Romel. Thank you. I mean, honestly, this is very invaluable information, like he said before, in this times of uncertainty and when so many people are so vulnerable. As a reminder for everyone, there is a box. You can see a question mark on it. And in that box, you can add any question you have. You can do it now, and we can answer your questions live right now, or you can wait until the end of the presentation and when we'll be able to unmute your microphone so you can ask your question at the end of the presentation. That's just a reminder. So, as I was saying before, it's unfortunate that we are living through this very hard moments, and on top of it, we need to be concerned about not falling for scams. And now we're gonna show you briefly of a common and real way of how people that are scamming other people contact the people that are they're trying to take advantage of in their time of need. So we're going to take you step by step of to show you how they operate. As we see here, you can see the first step, which is a fake immigration court on Zoom. The first step is that you receive a message from somebody who says they are your lawyer. And you see in the graph, you see it's like, hey, how are you? How you doing? And then they're like, I'm your lawyer. And then you have to remember that if you don't have an attorney, we haven't had one, or haven't had any kind of assessment or interview with an attorney, it's almost impossible for an attorney to show up and take your case out of nowhere. That's something to to take into consideration. And then second step is the message with fake documents. They appear to be official documents from the government. You can see the authentic document and then the fake one. It's really difficult to corroborate which is the fake and which is the real one. Usually, the first time they contact you, when they send you the message, and you, without knowing, you start providing information without realizing. You start realizing you start sharing information, and then they start sending you this information. These messages seem to contain official documents from the government, and they give you an appointment, and then they tell you your case looks very promising. And please just keep in mind, you will never get information regarding your hearings or your documents through WhatsApp or email. Any information coming from the government will be through mail, postal mail, or to your home address. And of course, through the lawyers. But first, they need to know who your attorneys are. And later on, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Remember that all the documents that come from any government agency, immigration government agency, will always have your A number, your case number. And you have your case number, your A number will be the number that will follow you until you become a citizen. Step number 3. After they send you, step 3 is that then they tell you that you need to join a virtual immigration court on Zoom. You know, the official application portal or link for all courts, virtual courts for immigration courts are only through WebEx, WEBEX. Each immigration judge has a direct link. If your court is virtual, you need to create a WebEx account. Something that you need to take into consideration to make sure that this court is real, as you see here in the picture where it says authentic, that's a real hearing or court. All the judges wear this black robe, which is their official uniform, and usually uh, they're sitting on the bench, and you can see it's like a raised platform. It's not an office, like as you can see in in the next image, where you see a person. You can see that the person that is in the fake court is representing or pretending to be a judge, and they're dressed as a police officer. The supposed lawyer, attorney that we see next to her has a U.S. flag next to her. As Ramon had said, that's like a red flag when when you see those things to make them look official. And in a court, the judge will never speak to you in a language other than English. If you do not speak English, then you'll be assigned an interpreter to interpret all communications. So you need to keep this in mind that, or how the courts look when it's an authentic court or when it's a face fake one. It will never be in an office with the flags and logos for the US or USCIC. And I'm going to repeat this. Never, ever will you have a virtual court or hearing over Skype or over Zoom. Next step. The next step is that the fake judge is going to order you to pay some fees through an informal payment platform, the fake judge will tell you during the hearing, that you need to pay forms for your application, or because you're gonna get a residence card or some adjustment in your status, and you'll get a receipt. Then you can see it on screen. This is a receipt somebody got that says, "Hey, this is a payment order," so that you can pay it. And this payment is through Zelle, MoneyGram, Western Union. The judge never, I repeat, will never ask you to make any kind of payment. All payments are done directly to government agencies. You don't pay through a form, because all of forms can be downloaded for free in the official pages. And later on, my colleague Edward will tell you in more detail what are the official methods to make those payments, to file or submit an application for immigration court. Please also keep in mind that many virtual courts are being changed drastically to be in person. So you might be doing all your hearings or your courts, and overnight or days before, they say you need to come in person. That's why it's really important to stay on top of your case on the portal of EOIR, so you can verify the dates and the place for your court. And all these resources we're going to share with you after this webinar. So, and there's a lot of stigma around scams, because we know it's not just about losing money. It hurts a lot to lose money, right? Because it's hard-earned money, and we're here to work, and it's very hard to get money. But we also know we have like a bad feeling, like we have the intuition, right? Because we're human beings. We don't see ourselves because we hold on to the hope we're being given. They're giving you, we're gonna have a green card. So sometimes those red flags are there, those feelings, but we don't realize that, or maybe we don't want to really think that this is a scam. And this also affects your mental health. We have all this like mixed feelings, which can be, if this happens to us, we can feel ashamed, guilty, feel sorry for ourselves, or not be accepting that this can happen to anyone, right? Or to us. And also shame, it can block us. It keeps us from looking for the support or the help that will make us feel a little better. It's not going to make us feel all better, but it would help. And thinking that just uneducated people or not smart people, so it's wrong to think that these things can only happen to uneducated people or people that are not smart. And what we commonly see in society is to blame the people that has been affected because they didn't realize it was a scam or because they fell for it. But everyone, we are could all fall for something like this. I'm repeating that because we could all fall for something like this. And now I'm going to share with a colleague that or a friend that unfortunately went through an experience like this, and he's going to come and share his personal experience. Um, and like I was saying, a lot of people go through this, and that's why we want to break the stigma, that because this could happen to anyone. And I want to pass it on to my colleague Noé, see if he's ready. We're gonna have a conversation with him. Noé, are you ready? Yes, I am. Good evening. Yes, I am ready. Good evening. Thank you so much, Noé, for being with us tonight. And thank you so much for having the courage to share your experience and for your time. We know everybody's time is golden. So we're really, really grateful that you're here with us today. And we want to thank you because we know your testimony is going to help other people not go through the same thing.
So if you could tell us, how did scammers first reached out to you? What did they tell you? I had an order for deportation, and that one may feel panic, the fear of being deported. And so what I did is I visited Facebook and I saw a lawyer's office and I clicked there. And you know that while you click that ad, it'll send you directly to a WhatsApp. And that is how I was able to contact them. So I gave a like, and once I gave that like to that ad, it sent me directly to the WhatsApp. And so the lawyer reached out to me and she asked what did I needed, and I said I had an order for deportation. What could I possibly do? And she said that she had many options for me. And one of them was, in order to get rid of that order of deportation, I may need a pardon. And she asked me whether I enter the country through what they call coyote illegally, or how did I enter? And I said it was through an asylum. And they mentioned that I had options, that I had the possible option to get a legal permanent residency for 10 years. So that's the promise they gave you, that you were going to get a legal permanent residency for 10 years. Yes, they told me you're going to be able to stay here. You're going to be able to request and give papers to your family, and anyone can be excited with that. Of course, of course. Did they ask you for a document? What did they ask you for? At that moment, they asked me for my alien number to look me up. And how did I get this order for removal? And they said, you have an order of removal. This is very dangerous for you. Could you send us a copy of your passport to see what we could do? And so what I did is I sent them a photo of my passport, and you gave them all that information. And through that, they were able to make that copy of all the documents that it felt real, right? And at that moment, you were afraid, you had hope. What were your feelings? At that moment, I was anxious. I was scared. I had missed my immigration court appointment. And so I was afraid. And also, the new administration was coming, Trump was coming, and I entered panic. I was scared. And at some point, did they tell you not to tell anyone, or is there anything else that they scared you with, or did they intimidate you, or at any point? Well, what the lawyer told me, to be careful when I go out and not to inform anyone of what I'm going through, just because I need to be careful with the cops. If they find me, they would arrest me. Or if I go to work, I could be tortured. And if I get arrested, they will deport me that very moment. And when did you notice that something was off? When did you have a bad feeling about this? Well, This was when she would send me the apps to make a payment, and then I would look at the name on the app, and the app would notify me that that number did not exist. And I also noticed that the time for the hearings was 3 p.m. because supposedly the process was going to happen in Arizona. She had worked with USCIS in Arizona, and supposedly she knew many people over there in Arizona and that they could possibly help me with my process. She also mentioned she was going to seek for a judge, that she had contacted USCIS for a Spanish judge at the federal level. And I became suspicious because it wasn't an immigration judge, it was a federal judge. Yes. When that happens, is they try to get your trust. And can you imagine, you are facing deportation and they give you hope? Of course, anyone will lean on that hope. And and during this, when they shared the app and then how did they send you the links? How did they inform you about your hearings? Well, the first time when she asked for a picture of my passport, she gave me an email and that I would be receiving information through this email, and that within 8 days, USCIS will inform me if this has been approved within 8 days. And after 3 days, I received the email, and I'm the type of person that doesn't really check on my email frequently. And she messaged me about within 3 days, and she said, "Take a look. You received an email from USCIS," and I got the email. Thank you, Noah. And Noel, when did you notice that all of this was a scam? Well, I think in July, it was about 6 months. I think I sent you the information and I informed you that they were charging me a fee for the form because I was going to receive my green card, and they said it was going to be 1,000 per page. And when I sent them, then I sent you all the information about my case, and that's where you contacted me. And I'm so sorry that you went through this. There are many people that could fall victims to the scams. And we thank you for sharing your testimony and everything you are sharing with us. Is there anything that you would recommend for the people that are listening to us? Do you have any tips um, so they can avoid this happening to them? I think for us here, we heard the presentation, but I would say is inform others that are not part of our group at this moment. Maybe the people that will fall victims to the scam are people that do not have the information, the people not joining these calls. We can share amongst ourselves the information, follow up with the funds, and we will get that help. But there are many people that are not part of EFF and may not know this information. I gave this number to another friend that was going through the same thing that I was going through, and I didn't follow up. I don't know what happened to him. Yes. So it's like an ongoing issue. Now that everything is electronic, it is easier to change names, to change logos, and it's getting harder and harder to identify if something is a scam. With the first emails I received, they looked real. They looked real to me. Yes, they for sure. And they would ask, and we would ask you if you had a lawyer, and you'd said yes. And the lawyer is supposed to advocate for the person and have the best interest of the client. And really, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony. And this is exactly why we are doing this, to make sure that other people don't fall to these type of scams, and for people to be aware that there are organizations at this moment that can help and guide people and prevent people from falling victims of these crimes. Thank you, Noe. Thank you. Thank you, Noe. Thank you, Rosa, for that information. That very useful information, really. Thank you. Rosa, I think you continue? Yes. Yes. As we heard, we can see on this graphic, this is something that can happen to any of us. It is a very common thing. We have statistics here. According to a 2024 report from Global uh, Anti-Scam Alliance, we see that over 58,000 people were surveyed, and they reported about 1.03 trillion lost to scams globally. Many of them were, a high percentage had university degrees, and 28% reported to law enforcement, other government authorities. 70% of scam victims did not report the scams. 7% of citizens globally would consider money muling. And a very small percentage were able to recover. This is a huge issue. It's not an issue that is only being identified in this country, but it's a global issue. And if this happens to you, do not feel alone. As I previously shared, we can all fall to these type of scams. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosa. So, thanks to Rosa and Romel, you heard about what a scam looks like from the outside, and thanks to Noe, you saw what it looks like from the inside, and maybe more importantly, what it feels like from the inside. I hope we're putting you in a better position to identify some of the common scams. The group of us here on the panel, we've been spending a lot of time looking at scams, and it's just so overwhelming. There are just so many out there. And it feels like there's a new one every day and something new to look out for. Since we can't cover like every single scam in the world, I want to walk you through how to spot a scam that you've never heard of before. And I'm going to do my best to make this advice very practical, so you can apply it to any situation and protect yourself from scams of all kind. So let's go through some of the warning signs, and let's do it with some real world examples of where they show up. I want to start with the most important one. It's one that you've already heard today, but it's one that's worth repeating. And the first red flag, the first warning sign is that they ask for money. For people who run scams, the end goal is almost always money. And if you only remember one thing from this entire presentation, it's to be very careful anytime anybody asks you for money. They might ask immediately, they might wait a little bit and ask, or they might wait days or weeks even before they ask, so that they can build up trust. But ultimately, they almost always end up asking for money. Sometimes they ask for something that's real but should be free, like downloading blank application forms, but most of the time they're charging you for something completely made up, like fake services, fake bills, or if they're pretending to be the government, fake fees for applications a lot of the time. Example on this page, you can see fees for the G1145 program registration and for expedited case processing, none of which are real services or real offerings that you can buy. The next warning sign I wanted to tell you about is that often you'll find that before they ask for money, they offer something, or they'll offer something in exchange for money. So example, on this page, you can see that they might offer to represent you in your legal case. They might offer to bring cash to your house. They might offer help with an employment permit, or in some cases, you might even see they'll offer US citizenship. So this is a good time to think about what Rosa was mentioning before and what Noe talked through, that feeling of hope. Is this something that could be life-changing? Are they offering something so amazing that it seems too good to be true? A pretty good rule to follow is that if it seems too good to be true, the chances are it probably isn't actually true. So we just talked about emotions, right? And how some scams are designed to fill you up with hope. There are also scams designed to make you feel scared. So someone might reach out to say that you or your family is in trouble. Fear can make you feel very powerless. And scams can use that feeling of powerlessness to make you follow their instructions. For example, here you can see somebody might say, there's a problem with your immigration application. Also on the screen, they might say, you failed to file a form and there's a warrant out for your arrest, or the government has opened an investigation into you. All of these things to make you feel afraid and feel powerless. And they might even say that it's not you, but it's your friends that are in trouble or your family who's in trouble. And maybe they even need you to pay for them to get out of trouble. And oftentimes these scams are carried out by people who don't know you at all. So to make you feel like you know them, they might use names that you know or names that you trust. For example, you know potentially the US Citizenship and Immigration Services, one of the immigration authorities. So it's very easy for them to just put a logo on a page and make it seem like it's them. Like you can see her on the left. Or on the right, for example, maybe it's not the government, but just a brand name that you know that makes it feel legitimate. They could even pretend to be a bank that you work with or a law firm offering services, because those are businesses that people often think of as trustworthy. Or you can see right here in the middle, they might literally pretend to be somebody you actually know. In the middle of this text here is coming from out of the blue, but it says, "Hi, Mom." So it makes you think that you're being texted by a loved one. They can also make up titles for themselves. If somebody's running a scam, they can give themselves special positions, badges, credentials, anything that makes you feel like they're in charge. So either directly or indirectly, they're asserting authority. And the idea is that if they assert authority, they can get you to do what they say, and it makes it seem like they're in charge. They also know that you're smart, though, and that you might get suspicious. So they also are going to do their best to persuade you that they are real. So oftentimes we'll see that they make claims or they emphasize their own legitimacy. So one general rule that I like to think of is that if an organization is legitimate or if a service is legitimate, they usually don't have to brag about it. And so on the screen, you can see this is the one from example. that Romel shared, but they literally say, no es fraude, no, it's not a fraud, or it's not a scam. And the one that Romel also shared earlier, where they say it's 100% guaranteed. And just a side note, if you're talking to somebody who says that they're a lawyer, oftentimes good lawyers don't make big promises. They like to be cautious and careful. And if somebody is making big promises and big guarantees, they might not be a legitimate lawyer. Another thing that people won't do if they're actually advocating for you is make you feel overwhelmed or try to make you feel scared. People who want to support you usually want you feeling calm and level-headed. But a tactic that people use to carry out scams, one that we've talked about before, but it's worth repeating, is that they will put you under time pressure. So anytime it feels like somebody is trying to rush you or put pressure on you, if they use the word now a lot, like you can see on the slide, or if they only give you, a minute or a day or an hour or something like that, if they give you short timelines, unrealistic deadlines, there's a chance that they're trying to make you make a bad decision. And a bad decision could mean sending them money. So it's best to slow down and resist the time pressure and take your time deciding what to do. But one way, of course, that they can make you feel like you don't have time is that they can introduce consequences, and they're completely invented. They're completely made up. But just by saying one of these scary warnings, like, for example, on the slide, on the page here, you can see people often say, if they're running a scam, they'll often say that if you don't respond within 2 days, we're going to have to put a bad report on your immigration record, and it could jeopardize your case. Or they might even go so far as to say that you'll be charged with a crime if you don't respond. And again, this is to make you feel scared and make you feel powerless. And like Noe was saying earlier, a good way to restore sort of a feeling of power to yourself is to consult with family, to talk to friends, to draw from the places that you have love and support. And people who are running scams, they know this. So often they'll tell you not to talk to anybody, not to tell anybody. And they'll usually make up a reason like, oh, if you tell them, actually, you're going to put your friend at risk too, or you're going to put your family at risk too, if you tell them. And so this is all designed to keep you feeling powerless and make you feel like the scam is your entire world. Another tactic they can use to do this, even if it's people you don't know, is if they can leave fake reviews, fake profiles that send messages that make it seem like what they're telling you is real. It's very easy to do if you're running a scam to make fake profiles and make fake comments and fake stories that back up what they're telling you. So this is another one to look out for. And then I really want to emphasize too the payment methods, because this is a really solid way to spot if something is a scam. A lot of the scams that we're running are going to have somewhat informal methods of collecting payments. So think like apps like Zelle or Cash App or PayPal, or money transfer services like MoneyGram or Walmart's like transfer services or Western Union. And they might even ask for payment in the form of gift cards like that you would buy at a store. And all of this is designed to make it harder to trace where the money is going and make it harder for you to get your money back from them. Another one that I want to point out, and Romel pointed this out earlier, and I think you heard it come up in Noe's story as well, is that they can get information from you early in the scam, and then later they can come back and use that information to make it seem like you owe them money. So they can use your own information against you, and it may not even be the same person who asks for your information and then who uses that information against you. Sometimes it could be the same person, but they can pretend to be a different person. They can create a new profile and come after you as if it's a different person. So they like make it hard to see the connection between the information that you give out about yourself and the way that that information gets used. So if you ever feel like information that feels private is being demanded, then that's a good time to take a stop and take a breath and think about if it's worth the risk of giving up information like your A number, even your name, your full name, or especially things like ID numbers, like your licenses or your passport numbers, or your date of birth, or anything that can help people get in contact with you, like your phone number or your address. All of those things make it easier for people who want to scam you to get in touch with you. And that's something that we want to keep ourselves safe from. So just to recap all of these different ways, I just named a lot of these things, but every scam that I've seen has some combination of these. It's not all of them. It's usually more than one of the things on this list. And it's never just going to be one thing. But if you familiarize yourself with all of these different warning signs and you start to see a pattern, or you start to see a few of these happening, then it's a good time to take a breath and think about if somebody's reaching out to you, if it's legitimate or if it's a scam. So one more thing on the payment is a lot of the times these scams, as we've mentioned, are people pretending to be the government and collecting money as the government. So there's all of these ways that you can be sure that the government will never ask for money from you. The government is never going to ask for money over any website besides a government website. And you can tell if a website is from the government, as we mentioned before, because it will end in .gov. It's very important to make sure that it ends in .gov, not just the letters .gov somewhere in the link to the website. They also won't ask you to give payment information over the phone, and they won't ask for you to send it to a personal bank account. So anytime you're sending money to an account that has a personal name on it, like for example on the screen here, that's a good sign that it's a scam. Anything issued to the government is going to have the name of the government agency as the recipient of the money. And similarly, the government will not communicate with you over an app like WhatsApp or any other unofficial messaging apps, and they certainly won't ask for money over those channels. And just to, we've told you all these things about what tells you that something is a scam. When it comes to paying money for the government, we know that the government also does legitimately ask for money for fees for things that are real sometimes. So I just wanted to show you what the forms are of real legitimate payments to governments. And it's a very small list. So if you can remember these, anything that's not one of these could be a scam. So the government accepts money for payment for fees in the forms of checks issued to, like I said, the Department of Homeland Security or a government agency, not to a personal name, not to the name of an immigration official or a director or any kind of politician. Same thing with money orders. They do accept money orders, but only issued to the named agency, the Department of Homeland Security. And they do accept credit card payments, but there's only two ways that they'll ask for those for any credit card information. And one would be at the official USCIS website, which, like I said, it ends in the letters .gov. Or if they're taking credit card information through the mail, then they could ask you to fill out a form where you put those details. But again, it's very good to consult with an advocate. And if you ever see something when you're trying to figure out if the government is truly asking you for money or if it's a scam, that's something that you can get in contact with us and ask us. And we'll be sure to make sure that you're able to get in touch with us at the end of this. And I just wanted to quickly touch on the overwhelming sort of nature of scams, because we have so many people have phones and so many accounts, and there are so many different ways that we keep in touch with one another, and then the way different ways we communicate with each other. And all of those different ways are opportunities for people who are carrying out scams as well. So whether it's phone calls, email, websites, the sort of documents that we looked at earlier, or any of the messaging apps on your phone and social media as well. And I'm going to go through these very quickly for the sake of time, but an example of a phone call that somebody could, you might pick up the phone, you might see a strange number, you might pick up just in case, and they might say something. So I'll just read this out. This is if you pick up the phone and somebody says something like, "Hello, this is Officer James Carter from the Executive Office of Immigration Review. I'm calling regarding your immigration status. Can you please verify your full name and A number to proceed? Your application has an outstanding balance of $750. This payment must be made right away to prevent any action by ICE against you." And so you'll see some of the sort of red flags that we talked about before, some of the warning signs, like they use the official real name of an agency, the Executive Office of Immigration Review. Second, they ask for your name and your A number, so private information, personal information that they want from you, even if they're saying it as if you're just verifying. A lot of the times they'll say that just to get it for the first time, actually. And then they ask for money. They asked for money immediately. And they said, if you don't ask for money, then ICE could take action against you. So it has a threat. So just right there, that was, I think, 4 or 5 different components that we just talked about in a scam. And I just wanted to point out one thing that's specific to phone calls is that no matter what number somebody is calling you from, they're able to use software technology to make it look like whatever phone number they want. So somebody can call you and pretend that they're calling from this number, 703-305-1247, so that if you took that number and you said, "Hey, I'm suspicious," and you typed it into Google, that would actually be the real number for the real office that's pretending to call you. But that doesn't mean that's really where the phone call is coming from. That's just them doing what's called spoofing, where you can insert a number as the caller ID, any number that you want. And one more time on emails, email addresses, if they're coming from a government, they're always going to have .gov at the end of the email. So here's 2 examples where they do put .gov. See on the left, they put .gov in the email, but it comes before the @ sign. And the actual thing that comes after the @ sign that it actually ends with is gmail.com. So that's not a legitimate government email address. And one other thing that they can do is that they can put .gov in something that looks like the end of the email address, but actually it's just the name that they're choosing for themselves. And if you look all the way at the end, where the actual end of the email address is, it's uscis.link. And again, that's a red flag. That's a sign that this is not a legitimate government email. And it can be tricky because, like I said, they can put things before the @ So here's another example. So you could take a second to see if you can spot the real one versus the fake one here. And again, it's really important where the .gov letters are. They have to be .gov at the very end of the email address. So uscis.gov@gmail.com, that is a fake government email. No reply @uscis.gov, that could actually be a legitimate government email. Rosa talked about documents, so I won't get too far into this, but it can be hard because folks who are doing scams can be really sophisticated and really advanced when they make fake documents. But there are some telling signs that you can sometimes see, like, for instance, a QR code on an official government form. That's a warning sign. This big logo in the background, that's a warning sign. And also a notice to appear that mentions permanent residence. That's not something that you're going to see on a specific form. informing you that you're due to come to immigration court. And like I said, there are so many places that people can get in touch with you these days. So just know that if it's an account that you have or a contact number that you have, and you're able to use it to get in touch with other people, there's a chance that other people, maybe people you don't know, can also use that to get in touch with you. So it's really just no matter where you are using services on the internet or over text or over phone, it's always good to be vigilant. And that goes with social media as well. No matter which account you're on, no matter which profile, these are all places where people have the potential to find out things about you and get in touch with you or give you information that's designed to lead you down a path to a scam. So that was a lot of information, and I'm just gonna take a back seat now and pass it over to Patience and Ashley, who are gonna walk through some of the resources that you can also use to help avoid falling into one of these scams. Ashley, you want to take it away?
Yeah, thanks so much, Ben, for that overview. So now we kind of want to talk about, what might happen if you end up falling for a scam. First, we really want to emphasize, to remember not to panic, and that, again, there's really no need to be embarrassed, because these scams, they can be very advanced and anyone can fall for them. So that's really important to keep in mind. First, we want to give you the tools that you can use to identify like when information regarding immigration hearings are legitimate or not. Then we'll share, some organizations and additional resources that can provide legal support. So first, like you see here on this slide, it shows you the EOIR website. And on that website, you can see how to look up a hearing and find out more information about your actual hearing, especially if you're having a virtual hearing. But first, before I sort of walk through the website, just to give you some background, it's important to know that the EOIR does use video hearings, and they can use them for example, your preliminary hearings, which you might know as your master calendar hearings, or your individual hearings. And an immigration judge can conduct a hearing in person, and the judge can be in person, but maybe you, for example, might be on video, and then the other person could also be in person with the judge. Another option that happens sometimes is that both you and the other party could be on virtual, and then the judge could be in person. So those are different options that happen, but virtual hearings do happen. And so you should be aware that it is a possibility. But like Rosa said, they will only happen through WebEx. That's the platform that it happens on, not on Zoom and not on Teams and not on Skype. So only WebEx. So as you see here on this website, and we have the website link at the bottom, but you can see here that you can look up information about your hearing. When you go to this website, you enter your A number. Once you enter that A number, it will pull up more information about your hearing. As you can see that it's an individual hearing, and it says that it's an internet-based hearing. And so that means that it's basically going to be virtual, and you can see what judge you're going to have that hearing with. So if, for example, it's the day of your hearing and you need to find out the link so that you could pull up the virtual hearing, one way to do that is to use this website that we have on the right, and that takes you to a website that allows you to look up your judge's virtual courtroom. So that's essentially like where that hearing is going to take place, and you can use that link. And it also gives you the access code that you can use. It also, if you have the hearing over the phone as well, on this website, you can use it to find out more information about how to access your virtual or telephone hearing. So we're going to move on.
Okay, so the next resource that we'd like to make sure that you all are aware of are pro se legal clinics. So first, what is a pro se legal clinic? A pro se legal clinic is essentially a resource that offers limited scope legal assistance. And so limited scope means they don't do kind of full range legal services typically, but they will do things like provide legal information and resources regarding the immigration system more generally, and things that might be helpful in navigating your individual immigration case. They might help you fill out some forms, for example, relevant to, for example, work authorization and similar things like that. They will also sometimes offer limited legal advice, and so you can go with them with specific questions about your own case. Sometimes they will offer workshops and training, kind of something like this, but more specific to the legal process that you may be able to join either virtually or in person. And lastly, they might offer referrals and connect you to attorneys that might be able to take on your case. And so generally, they are here to assist people who are seeking citizenship or legal resident status and are not able to pay for it. And so it's a great way to find legal support without having to kind of break the bank or, pay for it. And another great way that pro se legal clinics are of help is that they connect non-citizens with citizens, and they just offer that empathy and that compassion and that community. And so here on the next two slides, you'll see a list of pro se legal clinics. These resources that we have here for you are all located in New York City. We have listed them. We have the organizations that are from almost all the boroughs are represented here. So all these organizations will be actually provided to you in a resource that we will provide after this presentation, but we wanted to just kind of show you what it looks like now. And some of this, I think one of them, the Central American Legal Assistance Organization, does have intake hours, and those are from Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. They don't accept walk-ins, at least according to their website. They don't accept walk-ins, but they will take phone calls during that time. For the rest of these, you can use the numbers again that will be provided to you after this call, and just call them and you can ask your questions or ask them what kind of resources they offer.
Okay, so we also wanted to make sure that we provided you with some resources for how to look up if someone is actually an attorney. So say, for example, someone reaches out to you, they're claiming to be an attorney, but you're not really sure. This is a really great resource that you can use just to verify their credentials. So for example, there are two resources that we want to flag. So one is the American Bar Association. On the American Bar Association's website, or even if you were to just Google American Bar Association, verify attorney, for example, it would take you to the website. On that website, you would be able to look up for any state, not just for New York, but for any state. It'll link you to a website that tells you or that allows you to look up any attorney in that state. So say if you wanted to look up for someone in Florida or Georgia and not New York, you could go there. But it also has information for New York as well. And that's what we have linked here in that first bullet under verifying attorneys in New York. It'll take you to a New York State Courts website. And on that website, you only need to enter the attorney's first name and their last name. And when you enter that information, it should take you to a site that shows you whether or not that person has like an active registration. It should tell you where they work, when they were certified, and when they, passed their exams. So that is really, really helpful. And there's also a phone number here and an email that you can use to just verify like attorney, whether they're registered or not. So please, be sure to use that as an additional resource if you're ever uncertain about whether or not someone is actually an attorney, if they're telling you that that's what they are.
And before I get to the last resource, just wanted to go back very quickly, and we don't have to move the slides, but to the pro se legal clinics that we have offered. I know I said as a general matter, they don't offer legal representation. However, some of the organizations that we have listed here do. Just for your reference, some of them might refer you to a different organization or to private attorneys. However, at some of these places, for example, like the New York Legal Assistance Group, NILAG, they do offer representation, as well as the Central American Legal Assistance as well. Just for your information, when it comes to deciding which of these organizations you might want to reach out to for support. Now, the last resource we'd like to offer you is how to report a scam. So what happens if you do end up falling for a scam? So the first thing you're going to want to do is to connect with an immigration advocacy organization, such as Envision, or a legal immigration organization like the Rapid Response Legal Collaborative for guidance and support. Will be able to, or these organizations will be able to walk you through what to do next and also provide support. Again, these scams are very advanced these days, and so do not feel bad and do not feel shy in asking for support. Next, the next thing you're going to do is to collect the details. So you're going to want to gather all the information about the scam. So list the website or the email or the platform that was involved. If you have any dates, if you have any specific names or any phone numbers, just any specific information that might help, that might just be useful in identifying the scam or to know what to do about it. And lastly, make sure, not lastly, excuse me, second to last is to document everything. So not only are you gathering this information, make sure to keep it in a safe space. So if you want to write it down on paper, make sure that you know where that paper is, or if you're going to write it electronically or digitally, make sure that you know where it is. This will be helpful for follow-ups when you're talking to legal organizations or immigration advocacy organizations. And then lastly, you're going to want to report the scam to a consumer protection agency. So for example, the Federal Trade Commission in the United States is their whole job is to fight scams, or a big part of their jobs is to fight scams. So these are the 4 things that you're going to want to make sure to do when, if by chance you are impacted by a scam. And
I think that this is the time we have at the moment. I saw a question here in the chat. Oscar asked this. Oscar, we're going to try to respond to your question soon after this phone call or to this call. Something else regarding what Romel said is that we're going to have our organization Envision Freedom is going to have a presentation, a workshop of how to prepare, what documents one needs, and make a plan as a family. Because if anybody gets deported, if you are part of our Envision Freedom WhatsApp group, you can get more information there. And we're going to share other ways to connect with Envision Freedom. So we're sharing information of how to connect with Romel's organization documented via WhatsApp. If you have any questions about this issue or other immigration issues, you can contact them. And you can contact Envision Freedom. And siguiente diapositiva. Siguiente diapositiva, por favor, Ben. I mean, next slide, Ben. Oh my God. And you can also get in touch with our organization, Envision Freedom Fund. There's a QR code you can scan on your phone. We are in social media, or you can send me a message or Kate, and we'll give you this information, all the slides, all the resources. We're gonna send them via email this week. And thank you so much, everyone that could join us. Thank you, the panelists, for being here with us tonight. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.